Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So last week I decided to let you guys decide what would be the next indie game for me to look at. I stated that a suggestion with the most likes would be the next game to look at, but as some of you probably already know, the comment section was turned into a clusterfuck just a few hours after uploading the Braid review. No one really to blame but myself. I should have established a more controlled method of selecting the next game. Out of all the suggestions I've noticed, Super Meat Boy was among the most requested. Well, alright then, let's get into it. I've definitely heard of this game before, and I can see what it can do to a man when they attempt to play a drinking game with it.
I hate Mega Man upset!
That poor asshole. Well, let's just see exactly what I'm getting myself into here. In 2008, there was a Flash game on Newgrounds called Meat Boy, produced by the combined efforts of Edmund McMillan and Jonathan McEntee. In it, you simply had to guide the sack of meat through many platforming obstacles to save his girlfriend located at the end of each level. It was a very simple game, very easy to pick up and play, and people loved it. This would later catch the attention of the likes of Microsoft, who were impressed by the reception of Meat Boy and requested that a sequel be developed for their online services. Flash forward 2 years and we have Super Meat Boy, created by Team Meat, a joint effort between Mr. McMillan and Tommy Refenis, with music by Danny Baranowski. Super Meat Boy serves as one giant tribute to the hardcore gaming days of the late 80s and early 90s, a time period where well-crafted games were not only a joy to play, but kicked your ass hard in the process. Well, I've had my share of difficult games before. I've beaten Mario 2 Lost Levels, I've conquered Zelda 2 The Adventure Link for not only this review channel, but for my Let's Play channel too. I'm gonna beat this meat. Bring it on, Super Meat. Okay then, let's try that again. Because this game is such a throwback to the early days in gaming, the plot is barely existent. Meat Boy and his girlfriend Bandage Girl are out and about enjoying their lives. Enter Dr. Fetus, a fetus in a robot body that nobody likes and as a result doesn't like you or Meat Boy. Dr. Fetus kidnaps Bandage Girl and it's up to Meat Boy to save her. That's about it. Despite the cliched plot, Super Meat Boy does provide a number of laughs to its relatively dark humor. Every time you reach Bandage Girl at the end of the level, she gets pimp smacked in some way or another by Dr. Fetus before being kidnapped once again. The small cutscenes that play before fighting boss battles also provide some fun humor as well, so while it may not be original, it's still pretty entertaining. Super Meat Boy isn't something you play for the story anyway, so in the end there's really no need to get too into it. The game in itself is a pure platformer. In addition to running and jumping through many things, Meat Boy can also wall jump to reach higher areas or avoid obstacles like buzzsaws, lasers, eldritch abominations, and whatever this thing is. Super Meat Boy is not for the faint of heart. Do not be fooled by its cutesy simple graphics, its high energy soundtrack, or that smile. This game will challenge you. You will die. You will die a lot. And holy shit, you will die a lot! Your eyes aren't deceiving you people. That's my total death count at the point of this review. Every world introduces a new mechanic or obstacle that you will need to learn to outmaneuver or manipulate to your advantage if you plan on beating it. As you proceed through more levels, the amount of shit to bypass just increases and increases. It could be hopping through saws, riding air currents, running away from a flood of maggots, or salt. You are not safe, and you will not achieve peace until you conquer the challenge ahead. So, with the exception of the giant I unleashed earlier, why am I not losing my mind here? Well, that's because you don't have lives in Super Meat Boy. No lives means no game overs, and on top of that, just about every level in this game is really short. It all varies, but a lot of levels range from 10 to 15 seconds, each providing a burst of challenge rather than a marathon of shit that can turn off even the most dedicated player. You've all seen it. I hated the likes of Lost Levels and disliked aspects of Zelda 2 because how much the game forced you to deal with little to no breathing room. That's simply not the case here. If you fuck up, it'll take you no time at all to reach the area where you died at because of how small the level is. You still need to bring your skills to complete a lot of these levels, and yes, there's a lot of trial and error to go around, especially in the later half, but you're not severely punished for messing up, and nothing in this game screams cheap. That's what I like the most about this. Because of the lack of said punishment, I didn't even notice the amount of times I died. The only thing I cared about was completing the stage, and in a platformer, that's all that should matter, not whether or not you completed the previous levels without fucking yourself over too badly. Depending on the level, you can also collect bandages, which you can only keep if you manage to collect it and beat the level without dying. Collecting enough of them will allow you to unlock extra characters from different games, which come equipped with their own abilities. This includes the likes from Hominid from Alien Hominid, and even Tim from Braid, that perplexing fuck. You can also unlock certain characters by discovering specific warp zones in levels and completing the character specific obstacles. Warp zones only remain active in a particular level for a limited amount of time, so getting to them is a matter of whether or not you're fast enough. Warp zone! I'm not really a fan of Commander Video from Bit Trip Runner because I don't find his temporary hover to be that useful, but I did get some use out of Jill from Mighty Jill-Off. What's she supposed to be, a gimp who licks shit? I was actually stuck here for a little bit with Jill because the game doesn't exactly tell you what Jill's special ability is. I'm guessing it's because Team Meat assumes I already know about Mighty Jill-Off, but I didn't, so a little tutorial panel would have been nice. Of course, as some of you on my Facebook know, another one of these characters you can unlock is none other than the Kid from I Wanna Be the Guy. Just to fill everyone in, I Wanna Be the Guy can be described as the phrase "fuck you" personified as this game. The only thing you need to know is that it exists and that it's one of the hardest games you'll ever experience that isn't a poorly designed ROM hack. The Kid hails from this game, and his character-specific challenges are among the most difficult in the entire fucking game. No bullshitting here. It took me 3 hours to unlock this fucker. He has a really useful double jump, but that doesn't mean shit with level design like this. This is why I screamed earlier. The process of unlocking the Kid. And despite the amount of sweat I generated in my palms, not to mention the hand cramps, I feel like I really accomplished something when I finally unlocked him. And with the ability to double jump, the Kid can blow through a number of levels without breaking a sweat, which I think is a good enough reward for going so out of my way to get this asshole in the first place. Just to cover the control in general, it's fine for the most part. It may take a bit to get used to Meat Boy's speed and jumping, as there were a number of times I lost control of myself due to recklessness, but he, along with the extra characters, are very responsive to button inputs, and there should never be a time where you're unfairly killed due to control. Anyway, there's actually a lot to do in Super Meat Boy. Every world contains about 20 levels apiece, and if you manage to complete a level with a grade A rank, you can unlock the Dark World version of that stage, which is pretty much the hard mode version of that level. Each world ends with a boss fight, which are actually my least favorite part of the game for me, if only because the levels last longer than your typical level in this game, so fucking up feels more punishing as a result. I died so many times to this asshole when I first encountered him, because I couldn't read when he was going to do that damn headbutt. This game's all about memorizing patterns, I know, but Jesus, at least give me a little heads up. With the addition of the Warp Zone levels and special glitch levels that can appear every once in a while, the amount of stages to complete in Super Meat Boy towers in the hundreds. If you just care about completing each world normally without going after the Dark World levels, then you can complete Super Meat Boy in a weekend, if you're persistent enough. Like Braid, the game is also available for $15, which I think this game rightfully earned. It may not be as invigorating as Braid, but it's a hell of a lot more entertaining. The gameplay is addicting and very easy to learn, the soundtrack adds a ton of energy to the game, and it's loaded with replayability thanks to the extra characters, ranks, deceptively simple design, and humor. I consider Super Meat Boy to be worth your time and money. Just prepare yourself for the slaughter ahead. Alright, before we end this, there's another game I want to briefly discuss that a large number of you requested as well, called The Binding of Isaac, which was also created by Edmund McMillan along with Florian Himsel. I apologize if I pronounced that last name incorrectly. In short, the game is an action-adventure dungeon crawler very similar to the likes of The Legend of Zelda that requires you to guide this little naked boy named Isaac away from his insane mother, who wishes to kill Isaac to appease God. Yeah, it's pretty ludicrous shit, but it's actually based off of a story from the Hebrew Bible, but it's played for laughs more than anything, at least I think it is. Originally, I was going to make this a double review, looking at both Super Meat Boy and The Binding of Isaac, but sweet and to the point, I can't stand these controls. You can either map the arrow keys or the WASD keys to move Isaac, and you attack with whatever method you didn't map Isaac's movement to. Isaac, very much like Link from Zelda 1, moves and attacks like a tank, and with no official joystick support, I'm left with relying on downloading third-party software in hopes of actually enjoying the game. Even then, the game itself was just totally uninteresting to me. My first impressions were not very good at all, but I don't know if it was because of the game's random structure or because I couldn't get used to the controls. The game's $5 price tag is certainly attractive, but I'm sorry guys, this is just one game I'm gonna skip for now. I hear that there's a remake of the game in the works called The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, which will get an actual console release, and if that's the case, I'll wait until that version comes out to get a full opinion on it. As of now, however, no, I refuse. I essentially wasted $5, and I'm sorry to disappoint a lot of you that wanted me to give a full review of this game. I'm willing to give The Binding of Isaac another shot, but only after the remake comes out. I do want to support the developers, especially since I really got a kick out of Super Meat Boy, but with this current controller setup, no thanks. Anyway guys, the next indie game in the lineup is a game I've actually experienced a few years ago when I was told the structure is very similar to the likes of Metroid. I'll see you guys next week with Cave Story. It's not a very imaginative name, but anyway. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great night and take care.
The